members of the public. It's 10 o'clock, so we're due to start. Well, we're looking forward to hearing the submissions today. Just in terms of our process, we'll go through. We've got some speakers in person, some online. It's 5 minutes per slot, and we'll see how we go time-wise. Hopefully, we'll keep up with that. Just in terms of the this is being recorded and will be published online on the QLDC website or it's on YouTube afterwards. So it's being live streamed as well. And so from the councillors, we're all here, so we've got no apologies. And just checking around the table if there's any conflicts of interest that people may need to sit back from. No, so no conflict of interest. So we do have an agenda for the hearing before us. So I'd like to move that agenda be confirmed without additional alteration. Secondly, thank you, Councillor White. Councillors in favour, please show.
Aye.
Okay, very good. So, welcome everyone. And first up is Barbara Beale from the Aspiring Athletics Club. Good morning.
His surname's Beeble, so it's all the B's. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we've got 5 minutes. I look forward to hearing.
Am I allowed to sit?
Please.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So my name is Barbara Beeble, and I've been involved in athletics for more than 60 years as an international multi-event athlete, as a coach and a mentor, and I humbly request that this submission is given your full attention. It's on behalf of the Aspiring Athletics Club and restates the case for improved community sporting facilities in Wanaka. Since 2017, I have been repeatedly requested to improve facilities, and however, very little progress has been made. According to this draft annual plan, QLDC states that a key performance indicator change is reflected in that they now have a better way to measure participation in sport and recreation across the district. I could find no further reference to this in the documentation, but I am aware there exists multiple comprehensive reports that no doubt at considerable expense on this very topic, tabled in 2018 and 2024 from the Recreational Sport and Leisure Consultancy, that revealed 3 key points. Demand for sports facilities is growing rapidly. Development of facilities is lagging behind demand, and the Upper Clutha area is particularly affected. These problems identified in 2018 still exist 8 years later. And if yet another review was to be held today, the results would be exactly the same. Perhaps this new way will yield better data, but at the moment, these RSL reports are my only reference. The proposal outlined in this draft annual plan for a full-size multi-use artificial turf for rugby and football is exciting and long overdue. Suggestions that it be part funded from the WASR fund will be well received amongst the sporting community that will get to use this valuable resource. And while it goes some way towards relieving the dire situation that exists, there is still much more that is needed in the region. The venue of this artificial turf is still to be revealed. The Valentine Road project is the key to developing and future-proofing the Upper Clutha sporting facilities. Planned for extensive development in 2030 with a budget of 6.8+ million is too far away, and although 6.8 million is a very large sum, it is still not enough to fully complete the project. Drip feeding will see the project completed by about 2040. And as a result of this submission, it is requested that the advocacy be made to review this timeline and budget. Reparation of the land is undertaken by Alan Dippy well ahead of the projected timeframe, and the hiatus that currently exists while the ownership of the land is challenged only serves to delay this project further, if not derail it completely. If Valentine Road is to proceed, then these 2 major components of timing and budget must be reviewed. The question that needs to be asked, though, should QLDC lose ownership, what is Plan B? Initially part of the intended Valentine Road project, an all-weather running track was included in the discussion documents, but after a QLDC Aspiring Athletics Club meeting in April of 2025, long before the ownership issue arose with Valentine Road, it was unanimously agreed that the three parks would be the preferred venue for this track. In line with their strategic planning, this concept was strengthened with Athletics Otago and Athletics New Zealand supporting the building of this facility at three parks. And after this meeting in April of 2025, Simon Bactrick wrote to me, quote, "Where I've got to is that we really need an independent view of the feasibility of the athletics track in the district, the potential location, and whether it stacks up financially or usage-wise and strategically, regionally and nationally. I'm considering drafting a brief for a consultant to prepare a report, a feasibility study to gain some clarity and data to assist council funders with their future decisions." I'm still waiting to hear some 30 minutes later. Simon also said that the track was way up there in planning process and that we had some traction, but yet again, nothing has eventuated. So where to from here? The rationale behind developing the three park site as an athletics hub is based on two factors: providing the Upper Clutha district with a modern facility and the extremely poor subsoil structure and drainage which needs to be replaced at three parks. What better way to consolidate both of these than to reinstate the land within all of the track? Evidence supporting this solution is that winter conditions and overuse by football renders the surface unusable from May through to October. A safe surface is required for 11 months of the year for athletics, not just the summer. And three parks is often closed due to unsafe ground conditions, 30 plus in 2025, and in the last recent rain, 4 of the last 6 days have been seen the ground closed. Impact of the climate change on the viability of the grass will only get worse. Such an upgrade would provide a safe year-round training surface for multiple sporting codes that would allow regional, national and para competitions if built to a level 1 standard, and a grass infield that could be used as a premier playing surface, and also would deliver economic benefits to Wanaka. And overlooked as a priority project by the WCCB, this submission process is now the only avenue available to athletics to advocate to build such an asset for the future. This document is an attempt to keep the issue front and centre so that it will be promoted within the long-term plan cycle. As I understand it, new council projects are adopted from this annual plan and developed at management level prior to any LTP submissions. So it's imperative that this submission is successful. It needs to be included in future documentation. And all-weather track is not a vanity project, but an essential facility for sporting and recreational community at Wanaka, underpinning the fact that the true global sport of athletics is still New Zealand's most successful sport at Olympic and Commonwealth Games level.
Yeah. I am going to have to.
Sorry?
I'm going to ask you to close out now.
Okay.
Over the 5 minutes.
Thank you. Can I just summarise that? I challenge the councillors to become fully engaged and support the submission by ensuring fair investment in the Upper Clutha, advocating for the development of the quality all-weather track, and prioritising Valentine Road Sports Hub completion or its equivalent for the immediate future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Our next submitter is Andre Mayer. Morning.
Good morning, sir, and good morning, councillors. Thank you for letting me speak. I wish to discuss the proposed increased rates for Lake Hawea and Hawea. My written submission covers 7 concerns. I will focus today on the ones that matter most to the people that I represent. The details in the written document for you for your consideration. Cost allocation is the central issue. I want to start what matters most: cost allocation of the Upper Clutha wastewater conveyance scheme. This is the council's largest capital investment in the district's history. The signs you have erected on State Highway 6, including the one outside VetLife, called it the Upper Clutha Wastewater Scheme, not the Hawea Wanaka Scheme, the Upper Clutha Scheme. Council's own page says that works will, quote, increase the capacity and resilience of the wider Wanaka and Albertown wastewater network. Your general manager has said the upgrades will allow flows from Wanaka and Albertown to be managed by 2 pump stations. The Mayor, and I'm not sure whether it was you, sir, or the previous one, has called this council's single largest capital investment over the next decade. Central government has contributed roughly 22 million through the Infrastructure Acceleration Fund because they too recognise this district's significant infrastructure. And the council confirms its position in its own FAQ document for Hawea ratepayers, and I quote, under the current LTP assumptions, the wastewater project is split 50-50 between Hawea and Wanaka ratepayers, with 47% overall attributed to growth. 47% for growth. That means nearly half of what Hawea ratepayers are being asked to fund relates to capacity for future residents, not service to existing households. Current ratepayers are being asked to bankroll future growth on a 50-50 split between 2 communities of materially different scale. That is 2 layers of unfairness in a single allocation. Wanaka has materially more connected ratepayers across its share or spread its 50% share. Hawea has many fewer. For Hawea, the proposed rates increase for 26-27 is 22.3% in a single year. On a medium Hawea house, that's approximately $952 more every year from now on. That's not a one-off, that becomes a new baseline. And this comes on top of the district rate rises of 14.2% in 2023, 15.8% in 2024, and 13.5% in 2025, compounding year on year on Hawea households. That is not a fair allocation. It's not consistent with how the council has described this scheme to the public, and it's not consistent with what council told us during consultation, that connecting Hawea to the Wanaka scheme would, quote, spread the costs of service across a much larger ratepayer base. Council has acknowledged the problem. Council itself has acknowledged the problem. Its own annual plan consultation page states, and I quote, currently the cost to construct and service small community water schemes are generally funded by the communities they serve. Work is underway to consider further options which might spread the cost to improve the affordability of funding these schemes. And the Hawea FAQ goes further. It confirms that QLDC will review its revenue and financing policy as part of the next long-term plan, and that, quote, this work is already underway. So the rating model is being reviewed. Council has acknowledged affordability problem. Work is already underway. We submit that imposing a 22.3% rates increase on Hawea in 26-27, locking in the current 50-50 allocation, is premature. The fair course is to defer this increase or apply an interim allocation until the revenue and financing policy model review concludes. Costs of an Upper Clutha wide scheme should then be shared across all connected Upper Clutha ratepayers on a per connection per volume basis, with a district-wide benefit component recovered through the general rates. That's the principle of the submission.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Point well made. Our next submitters is Ants Online.
Is it joining online?
Yes, but we'll get underway.
Okay,
We'll-
Olivia, as you turn for the Lake Wanaka Arts and Culture Charitable Trust.
Morena. Ko Wanaka Performing Arts toku kaupapa, ko Tēnei, ko Olivia Tokuenua. On behalf of the Wanaka Arts and Cultural Trust, we acknowledge the very real pressure on this annual plan. Rates, infrastructure growth, and the trade-offs are genuinely hard, and we respect that. So today we're here to make this easy. The Wanaka Performing Arts Precinct has more than 5 years of momentum, prioritised by the Lake Wanaka Clutha Community Board, and aligns with a number of council's strategic plans, including the upcoming long-term plan themes of economic diversification and prioritising communities. The scope of the proposal is a precinct, a performance theatre and a black box theatre at the heart of a complementary precinct, including creative space, potential civic offices, studios, hospitality and commercial ventures, a sustainable mix. We propose a partnership. The Trust brings a community mandate, decades of art sector expertise, and the ability to leverage private and philanthropic support. Our specific request from this annual plan is $125,000 for the feasibility and establishment phase. That's 25% of the phase cost to be matched by private philanthropy, trusts, foundations, and significant in-kind support. It also positions us to look at central government co-investment. This is a modest, matched, and leveraged step, with the community engaged and already behind it. In the context of the council's more than $57 million community services budget, this is a modest ask. We're asking the council to take the same disciplined approach that it takes with other community infrastructure, fund the feasibility properly, unlock the private and philanthropic support, and give the district's arts community a fair pathway into the long-term plan. This has almost been a century in the making. For those that would have known about the dance hall on Ruby Island in the 1920s, Wanaka has decades of performance excellence, from the world premieres and leaders who have come and presented at the Festival of Colour, to the community-led Stars in Your Eyes, which this year turns 33 years old. The show is made by everyone, the farmers, the accountants, the students, the hairdressers, the road workers, and because everybody makes it, everybody feels they belong to it. Those who perform in it say that when they step onto that stage and see the glowing arch above them, they know they are standing where dozens stood before them, to a sellout crowd of people who live where they do. This is living history. It's a history that's asking you to make the next step. Our existing venues are nearly end of life. Touring performers are bypassing. Queenstown Lakes is recognised only second to Wellington as being the most creative city, with 5.6% of our workforce engaged in the creative economy. The creative sector is not peripheral to this district. It's foundational community infrastructure, and the council does not need to carry this alone. The partners are ready and the community is here. What we are asking for today is a modest, matched and practical commitment to get the feasibility and establishment phase done properly. Our district's performing arts community can move from aspiration and making do with what we have to exceptional delivery. Thank you. Any questions? I think it's time for questions.
Oh, probably one, just the feasibility side total cost, like, if we put in the 125, it's being matched 125 or beyond, or?
Yeah, no, so at the moment it's about $500,000 to do it really properly.
Yeah.
So the 125 was 25% of that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Is there, I don't know if you've got any planning, but is this going to be a long-term request, or you see this as a one-off, or what?
So there is some working documents in with QLDC at the moment. The first scope has been written up, a 20-page document that explores a number of things, and in that proposal is a request to what we know at the moment. There is detailed financially model is what's part of this 125 required.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Lena.
Jennifer Moss. Morning and welcome.
Laura. Thank you for giving me the time to speak this morning. The crippling effect of 2026-27 proposed rate rise of 29% for many of us living and paying rates in Luggett. Luggett has a soul and a heartbeat. My husband and I began paying rates in the Upper Clusa when we bought our first house in Albert Town in November 1974. Bear with me as I believe this is relevant. As two very lowly paid primary teachers within the context of the 1970s, we were able to buy a house, service our mortgage and pay our rates. Our house was modest, and so too the second one we built 20 years later in Wanaka. In 2012, we built our home in Luggett as we could see properties were cheaper here. We soon learned what an amazing community of people live here, and that's still the case. As we did in our previous two houses, we landscaped and fenced our property ourselves. Our house build was very modest and simple, and we both worked to complete the inside of our house from installing insulation in the walls and lining the walls with plywood. This kept our house build costs down. Our property, like others in Luggett Park, was connected to wastewater and a water system. Our house and property cost us way less than $500,000. Now it's deemed to be worth $1 million. Not my fault.
Mm-hmm.
We've both been retired for more than a decade, and for a while we supplemented our income with relief pension and driving a rubbish truck. But mainly we've managed on our New Zealand super. Now I'm the sole owner of 32 Alice Burn Drive, as my husband died 9 months ago. My income has been reduced. My house is valued at $1 million, so I face a 29% rates rise. We've never been $1 million house owners. Since 1975, I've been a ratepayer in the Upper Clusa area. It's my home. But I face having to sell and move if this 29% rates increase on top of the previous increases over the last few years, which have also been high, is imposed on us in Luggett. This will mean I'll have to leave the Upper Clusa. Clearly, QLDC did not get their budgeting costs for water upgrades accurate before work began, so the costs are being passed on to families who are already struggling with their own budget. It's not our fault. I know many young families are already struggling, and this increase will necessitate them selling and moving. Luggett, the wonderful community of people, which with this huge rates rise could become a lock-up and rental community for those wealthy enough to buy second houses and rent out for Airbnb. No longer a friendly neighbourhood community. Those folk who settled in Luggett in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and to whom we acknowledge as the founding members of this amazing community, would shake their heads in sadness. Luggett's soul and heartbeat will begin to die if so many of us can no longer afford to live here. Ka ore taku toa e te toa. We cannot succeed without the support of those around us.
Morning, Jim.
Tēnā koutou, Regina Dempster Aho. I'm the General Manager of Wastebusters, and on behalf of Wastebusters, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to provide feedback on the drafting plan. As a partner in the delivery of the Waste Management and Minimisation Plan from now on, WMMP, but easier to say, Wastebusters really appreciates Council support for our Resourceful Communities program of work. This will be our 7th year with a service level agreement, and we're delivering education and engagement across the whole district to support waste minimisation. Last year, our team delivered 26 workshops and events. We supported zero waste education in all the schools across the district. we engaged over 1,500 people face to face in waste minimisation, and feedback from the program was a satisfaction rating of 97%. And I really want to recognise the great work of Sustainable Queenstown, our delivery partner over the hill. By supporting a strong culture of reduction, reuse and recycling in our district, the Resourceful Communities program directly helps to achieve Council's WMMP goals. We also support the proposed capital investment into Wanaka waste facilities, namely the provision of a new transfer station. Like Wastebusters, we see every day, especially over the Christmas period, that the current transfer station site is just too small to deal with the volume of waste being dropped off. And relocating it to a large site with a new facility at 189 Valentine Road will ensure those materials are dealt with safely. In terms of our own site, we do really appreciate the commitment from Council, as outlined on page 11 of the annual plan, to enhance resource recovery and waste diversion options, Action 18, by formalising support for the expansion of Wastebusters. And we really look forward to this process with the signing of the lease for an extended site as soon as possible. The reality is that the current situation is creating growing pressure on our ability to operate safely and deal with the volume of materials being dropped off by the community, and also on our financial sustainability. And if we lost Wastebusters from the community, there would be a very heavy price to pay. More waste and recycling would increase pressure on Council's own infrastructure, ageing infrastructure. The community would lose the social infrastructure which connects people around the value of resourcefulness, and living in Wanaka would be less affordable and less sustainable. But with Council support, which is great, thank you, for Wastebusters expansion, we're facing a much brighter future as Wastebusters works with funders to build a bigger and better resource recovery and education hub, which we call the Wastebusters 2.0. As flagship zero waste hub, Wastebusters 2.0 will be a fit for purpose facility, delivering a combination of resource recovery, reuse, recycling, repair and upcycling, a construction and demolition hub, an education centre and a remakery, hosting workshops, school groups, skill sharing, all those great things. And the new facility will divert significantly greater amounts of waste. A business case we completed recently estimated increasing to over 5,000 tonnes from landfill per annum from 2034. The new hub will provide significant diversion for construction and demolition waste, which is one of Council's top objectives in the WMMP. And as part, we're looking forward in this process towards the long-term annual plan, the long-term plan. And as part of that, we request that Council consider including a capital contribution towards the total cost of Wastebusters 2.0 in recognition of that construction and demolition facility. An estimated 10 to 20% towards the total cost, which currently is estimated is around $17 million. This would be the most cost-effective way for Council to ensure that the district has access to the infrastructure required to achieve the WMMP objectives 1 and 3, and is also in line with Council support for community-run resource recovery centres around the country. We also ask that the Council transition the Resourceful Communities program from an SLA to a longer-term contract to bring stability and continuity for planning and delivery. I really note that Council recognises in both the WMMP and the 10-year infrastructure strategy that our district is going to need partnerships to provide the necessary infrastructure that we need in such a rapidly growing district and to meet the objectives of the plans. And as a community-owned, impact-driven, large-scale social enterprise with a 25-year track record, a national reputation, a proven high-trust relationship with Council as a delivery partner, and complete alignment with Council WMMP goals, we see Wastebusters as the obvious candidate to trial an innovative strategic partnership model with Council. We strongly encourage Council to commit to this partnership pilot as part of the long-term plan for 2027 to 37 as an innovative step towards meeting the goals of the WMMP in our district. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, so Joe Knight is joining us online. Here.
Okay, well. Morena, Joe Knight, Sports Central. This is our CE, James Nation.
Got it.
Beaming in from Dunedin this morning. Thank you for the opportunity to submit to the 26-27 annual plan process. We note that even in these financially difficult times, the Council has successfully completed or started many of the projected initiatives identified in the Queenstown Lakes Central Otago Regional Sport and Recreation Facility Strategy. And we congratulate Council on this.
Thank you for the opportunity to submit. At Sport Otago, we have a vision of Otago being the world's most active region. Queenstown Lakes District Council region plays a huge part in that. The environment helps shape physical activity. Just some Otago stats. Otago adults meeting the World Health Organization guidelines, 120 minutes of physical activity per week. Otago sits at 68.2%. We're up 7% since 2023, and that's against a national average of 61%. So we're up against the national average. Our youths, 5 to 17-year-olds, they have 420 minutes of physical activity per week as the guidelines, 62.5% versus the national average of 56%. The other main indicator that we use around physical activity is our secondary school sports participation. We annually come out in the top two, and we've retained that for 2025 with 64% versus national average of 52%. The interesting stat in that is our girls at 63% against a national average of 48%. Our girls are really active in secondary schools, which is awesome. However, there's still plenty missing out because of barriers to participation for whatever reason. There's plenty of evidence about the benefits of being physically active, not least that it helps create vibrant, resilient communities. Sport New Zealand research indicates that for every dollar spent, the social return on investment is $2.14, and that's a very conservative number. So prioritising investment in facilities, infrastructure and opportunities in play, active rec and sport supports a broad range of local government priorities and outcomes. At the moment, the 2019 Queenstown Lakes Central Otago Regional Sport and Recreation Facility Strategy is being updated to capture all the great work that's been done in the last 7 years and to help identify where the gaps are still in facilities across the territory. This is due for release in July 2026, and we will certainly be working with Simon Batrick and the team to get that in front of you in draft form, just to give you an update of where that's what's sitting there and what the key themes are that are coming out of that. But this document is certainly to help with decision making around those recreation and sports facilities.
So major themes that we can see from that document already, from the research, are the people are asking for an increased natural sports field capacity with enhanced lighting and significantly expanded indoor multi-sport capacity. So I guess that's your indoor courts. Improved amenity facilities, which could be modular or relocatable. Long-term strategic network planning, including enhanced spatial planning. Better policy frameworks, local and central government, which support sport and rec. Ensuring commercial developers make appropriate contributions, spatially and financially. And improved accessibility, inclusion and equity across codes. And enhanced event hosting capability, along with some support for high performance athletes and training camp hosting. The long-term plan 27-37, there's a priority on the community and environment. It talks to arts and culture, creative sector, but there also needs to be consideration for the sport and recreation sector, as these are key enablers for both the development of community resilience and improved environmental outcomes. Sport Otago understands the need for user fee increases, but in times such as these, we recommend keeping them as minimal as possible, especially for amenities such as pools and recreation services. There are basics. Our communities are changing, and not everyone can afford private services such as gym memberships or ski and bike passes, and we need the basics for our people to lead physically and mentally healthy lives. So sport's in a good position in the Southern Lakes region, almost at critical mass where we can start to localise our competitions, meaning less travel and stress on families. And we need commitment from council to undertake and complete projects in the sport, rec and play sector that will allow our communities to thrive. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Morning. Good morning. So, Michael Laurie.
Yes.
Good morning.
I live in Luggett. I've been there about 4 years now. I have a few points I want to cover. I shouldn't take 5 minutes, I hope. I've got things to go down its paper. The first one is that last year we had a 19% increase in rates, and this year it's a 29% increase in rates. That makes a net of 54% increase over the last 2 years, on nearly $3,000 per household, which is an insane thing to ask people to pay. Works out about $60 a week, and is eating into people's, food, fuel, and living costs. With the rising cost of petrol and current economic climate, it's a big ask. It's a huge ask to make people pay, especially in Luggett. It's not usually a higher area of the district. The second thing I wanted to say was that maybe there should have been, and maybe there was, but I didn't notice, more consultation before we had the capex. I didn't hear about it until after the fact, and I didn't hear about it until after the fact. And the question I want to find out the answer to, was the cost known before we spent the money, or was it we got after the fact? And if we knew the cost before we spent the money, we told, I don't remember being told that the rates increased prior to spending the money. If we didn't know about it before we spent the money, how can we not know about it before we spent the money? Surely the impact of capex should be known already before the capex is then spent. Regardless, the money's been spent. We have to pay it back now, which kind of sucks. And for that, I had maybe a proposed help or proposed solution to help pay for it. At the moment, Luggett zoning is all kind of wacky. And in the proposed rates increases in Luggett frequent house question, it says that a portion of the payment is borne by development costs for future subdivisions. Now, it's my understanding that there aren't that many future subdividable areas in Luggett at the moment, but they could be really easily. At the moment, this is Luggett. This is all settlement zoned. This is all residential zoned. This is all rurally zoned, which seems kind of weird because rural is founded by settlement zoned. Under the current rules, settlements have to be 800 square meters, or there's a maximum minimum size for settlement. Rural residential is 400 square meters. So the suburban residential is at 450 square meters, but the rural is 4,000 square meters. Most of these rural homes, rural sections, are over 4,000 square meters, but can't be subdivided under the current rules, just because that's the way it's zoned. If we were to change the zoning to be matching these two, suddenly have another 40 sections which could be subdivided and would greatly help with the future contributions. If that makes sense or not. But yeah, that's just because we spent the money's kind of gone, which sucks, but we have to pay it back. So we've got to find ways to make it more affordable. So I think easiest solution that would just involve kind of on paper change, but just be to rezone the rurally zoned houses in Luggett to match the current zoning of the new subdivision, which is residential, and then you'll have more future contributions to help pay for them. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Oh, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Did you say you're paying $60 a week in rates now?
I've been increased $6 a week, but increased $6.
An increase of 60. Okay, yeah.
So
Well, not perfect. Sorry, not
Yeah.
perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect. I just wanted to keep your understanding.
Yeah, it'll be a few $1,000 extra on average per house per year, which is well, that's committed 2 years ago, which is a lot.
Yeah. So I just understood that. Thank you.
Yeah, zoning is wacky. Fix this. Make it cheaper.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hamish Bell is online.
Morena, everyone, and good morning. Mayor John, I'm assuming you're in the chair, but good morning to you and to your fellow councillors. My name is Hamish Bell, and I'm a Luggett resident, but I am not in the South Island at the moment, so my apologies for joining online. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak. I suspect you are herding lots of sheep this morning, of which I am one. Look, I wanted to touch on the 3 points that I made in my submission in and around affordability, fairness and transparency with respect to the proposed rates rises. My first point is re-affordability. Your own material shows a district-wide average rate increase of about 11.7% while connected properties in Luggett are facing increases of up to 29.3%. And that comes after an increase of about 18% last year. So for some households, that means more than 1,000 extra in 1 year, and a cumulative increase of more than 50% in rates over 2 years. And in local government terms, that's not a marginal adjustment, it's a step change. And I think we need to be thinking about that quite carefully. In a small community like Luggett, with working families, retirees, and people already managing pretty significant cost of living pressures, that level of increase in my mind is simply too much and too fast. The second point I would like to touch on is re-fairness. Council said that the main driver of the increase, understandably, is wastewater and water charging. For connected properties, the wastewater charge rises from just under $800 to almost $1,800 in 1 year. That's a pretty significant jump. I think no one debates whether infrastructure should be funded. Clearly, it needs to be funded with the ratepayer base and a mix of how that's funded. I think, to me, the issue is whether the allocation of those costs are fair. First, between existing residents and growth, future development, and second, across the Luggett community over time. Right now, connected households are carrying the immediate burden, and I know a number of other residents have submitted, but Luggett also includes a number of older properties that are still on roof water and septic tanks and can't yet connect. So as the network expands, those households may also be brought into the charging base and will, I'm sure, in time. So the fairness question is broader than today's rates bill. It's whether the funding model is equitable, not just for those paying now, but also for longer standing residents who may face costs later as a result of infrastructure and growth decisions already being made. And my final point is transparency. It's really difficult for residents to assess the equity of what's being proposed without some clear information on how much has been collected from DCs in Luggett, how those DCs have been allocated, how historical infrastructure investment has been funded, and what's actually been spent locally. I note that the Luggett Community Association has lodged a Lagoima request on rates. In my view, the fact that that request has been made shows the level of interest and understanding that residents are seeking in order to assess the fairness equation properly. I also note that your Friday agenda now gladly includes a specific item called balancing cost and infrastructure, hardware and Luggett. That's important. It shows this is not being treated as business as usual. But my request is that Luggett not simply be recognised as a problem case and a noisy one at that, but councillors are direct a fairer and more transparent response over time. In closing, my request to councillors are pretty straightforward. Firstly, please reassess the affordability of these increases and phase them where necessary, rather than imposing such a large step change in a single year. Secondly, please require clear public disclosure of the funding picture, including development contributions, historical funding, wastewater cost allocation, and what's been spent locally. I think that would really help. And thirdly, please ensure the funding model is fair over time, not only for currently connected households, but also for those longer standing Luggett properties that may be brought into the system later. In closing, Luggett residents support investment in essential infrastructure would be daft not to. But if trust between residents, ratepayers and council is to be maintained, and if communities like ours are to remain stable and livable in the broader area, people need confidence that the way infrastructure is funded is affordable, transparent and fair, both now and into the future. Thank you.
Very much. Next, submitted is Judy from the Luggett Community Association. Good morning.
I'm Judy Thompson, the chair of the Luggett Community Association, and I'm speaking to the submission the association made on behalf of Luggett residents. There have also been 80 submissions from community members. So the points I wish to expand on are communication, inequity and evidence. Communication. QLDC communication of the proposed increase to the community for many was disjointed, and hence the community response was reactive. Further communication through a meeting requested with the community and the mayor and councillors did provide some information, but insufficient detail to explain and reassure. This lack of detail allowed distrust and probably misinformation to evolve. It also meant an attempt to get more detailed information that a Lagoima request has been submitted, but we won't receive any further information until the 20th of May. Inequity. We support for planning, but when infrastructure that appears to be many times the anticipated future capacity is installed, that prompts the question why. Who's paying for what? And have the costs been fairly attributed? The percentage allocation of costs to the airport, for example, were mentioned at the community meeting, and we were told it was based on usage. Why then do ratepayers have costs attributed for 3 levels of CV value of their properties? Luggett has had the ability to monitor water usage for many years, and many of us have participated in this trial with interest. This ability is currently being monitored, and we know this as a number of us are aware, and we've been notified of leaks on our property recently. So the advantages of water monitoring or metering is well documented and utilised in many places throughout New Zealand. Why then are properties which receive a comparable service being charged using a system of arbitrary CV valuations? A further example is a property purchased in a recent development and therefore contributing the development contribution with a CV at the 3rd level of the cost attribution, which will receive a 29.3% or potential 29.3% charge for water and wastewater. Haven't they already contributed to those costs? Evidence. The pushback from the community should have been predicted and could have been alleviated by open disclosure of cost allocations and funding sources. I urged council members here today to review the apportionment of costs and therefore before approving this component of the plan. I also recommend the information informing the decision is fully disclosed. Thank you.
Ron Sass, good morning.
Right, I'd like to start by thanking the councillors for letting me speak today. I'm Ron Sass. I'm a retired chartered accountant living in Lake Awea. I'm here today to make a submission on the proposed 22.3% rates rise for Hawea. My family have had a property in Lake Awea nearly 70 years, and I have made it my home just over 4. It appears from the QLDC website that the large increase in rates is due to the wastewater pipes from Hawea to Wanaka. My submission today is in 2 parts. 1, is it correct to split the cost 50% Hawea, 50% Wanaka, when there are far more households in Wanaka? Roughly 1,500 in Hawea compared to 12,000 in Wanaka. A fairer split may be 75% Wanaka, 25% Hawea. The second point I'd like to make is the wastewater charge for Hawea should be a fixed charge split evenly over all sections in Hawea. Otherwise, the long established properties in Hawea, which tend to have the higher values, would have to pay a disproportionately higher levy to the recently developed sections, when clearly everyone benefits equally from the wastewater improvements. Thank you for listening.
I've just got one question. In your submission, you suggested a 85-15%
Yeah,
split. Is that split you just said? Because you just said.
I said 75-25.
So is there a reason that you've changed it, or it was just, it's just
no,
an
just
arbitrary,
as
like,
a oral
balance?
presentation, it might have gone over.
No,
better.
no, that's okay. I wondered if you're an accountant, you might have done some more maths. I'll just keep.
No, I think my maths on the original one was correct. I
Yeah,
just thought
okay.
this was
No, that's all right. I
simplifying
was just double checking that you hadn't been doing more numbers, given that you're an accountant.
it. No, if I actually could get the numbers from the QLDC website, I would give you accurate.
The point was well made. Thank you.
That's right.
So we're now moving on back onto Zoom with Dan Pugsley.
It's not there yet. We are running these Tuesday. We're running a couple of minutes.
Okay, so we'll just give a couple of minutes. Watch yourself. Thank you. And next submitter on our schedule is Thomas Cullen. On Zoom. Here we go. Yeah, let's go. Is Ross here?
Ross is here, unfortunately, yes.
Excellent. Excellent. Guess what? You got promoted.
Ross is extremely nervous.
Hey, look, thank you. Come and grab a seat. You got 5 minutes. And, if you do overrun, we'll sort of cut you off.
Yeah, no worries. I shouldn't do unless I you mess this up completely. But all good. Hi, I'm Ross. So yeah, I live at 14 Magpie Place, Lake Kawe. I've lived in this area since 2001. I work locally operating heavy machinery, diggers, excavators, stuff like that. Like many locals, I've spent years trying to get ahead and buy a home in this community I grew up in. I've spent multiple seasons working in Antarctica, trying to save enough money to buy land here before prices moved beyond reach. Eventually, after years of working and saving, I managed to save around $200,000 to buy my land in Timsfield for $249,000. I built my home as cheaply as possible with a lot of help from my friends. I added a small unit onto the house so I could live there and rent out the main house to cover the mortgage. Since starting the building process in 2019, I have paid QLDC approximately $36,300 in rates, fees, and development contributions. I'm sure the real figure is a little bit higher, as I would have missed some invoices. In January 2021, my rates were $1,836 on bare land, with the capital value of $240,000. After building the house, my rates approximately increased to approximately $3,750, CV of $730,000. Then $3,950, then moved up to $4,350, $4,925, and now they're at $5,700 with a CV of 1.21 million. With the proposed 22.3% increase, my rates will rise to around $7,000 per year, approximately $134 every week. This is an increase of 86% in just a few years. While my property value has increased on paper, my income has not increased at the same pace. I understand infrastructure costs money and understand growth creates pressure, but I do not believe existing residents should continue carrying the cost of infrastructure required for large new developments. I already paid development contributions when I built the house and the unit. I believe infrastructure required for growth should be developer funded, incorporated into subdivision consent process rather than continually pushed onto existing ratepayers. At the same time, Lake Kawe still faces major infrastructure issues, 2 aging single-lane bridges, ongoing congestion and repair issues, limited community facilities, increasing pressure on local services. Many locals feel rates collected here are not being adequately reinvested back into our community, but I know many people are, I know many people are struggling more than I am, and I'm fortunate to own a home in this beautiful area. But these increases are becoming unsustainable for me. My savings are slowly disappearing and I'm seriously considering selling up and leaving the area I have called home for 26 years. I'm now 41 years old. I have been working and saving money to live here since I was 16. And all of these increases are just becoming unsustainable. That's it. Nice.
Cody?
Warrington's here.
My neighbour. Hi, Cody.
Yeah, Warrington's here.
14 Magpie, so over the back fence from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've seen you around a few times. Yeah.
Well spoken.
Cool. Sorry, I was pretty nervous. I'm not very good at public
You
speaking.
spoke really well.
Cool.
You'll be even better next time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, awesome. That's it.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
So, is there? We can do it here. Thomas? No. Okay. Well, I think. Well,
We can just see if people.
yeah, is Rebecca Simonson here? Let's carry on then. Good morning.
Morning, how are you? I just want to sort of follow on with what Jenny has said through Luggett and just, you know, my experience in regards to the rates rise that could occur. My name is Beck Sargenson and I have called Lake Hawea home for 47 years. I grew up there, attending Hawea Flat School and later Mount Sparring College. In my 20s, after years away, I built my first home here, which gave my family security. I live in Timsfield. I was here long before the subdivisions of Nickel Street Park, Timsfield, Sentinel and Longview. I have watched the community grow, but it has outspaced the support we receive. After decades of paying rates, we still lack basic infrastructure. I know we gained a roundabout, but what else is how we've been given? And where have our past rates been spent? Take a drive round, have a look. It's not that pretty. As a co-founder of Food for Love Wanaka, a charity I helped start 10 years ago, we provide more than 10,000 meals this past year to the Abaklufa community alone. Many of those meals have gone to families in Lake Hawea. Families facing cancer, dementia, injury, childhood illness, and the overwhelming demands placed on new parents. What many do not see is the reality behind these struggles. When someone in our community becomes seriously unwell, the nearest major hospital is over 3.5 hours away. That means total travel costs, accommodation, time off work, childcare, and impossible decisions for families already under pressure. When a parent is sick and needs surgery or ongoing treatment, what are they supposed to do? When they cannot work, how do they still pay the bills? Mental health struggles are rising, new parents are exhausted, with many faced back into work almost immediately because they simply cannot afford to stay home. People are not living, they are surviving. I know some people may say, it's just life, or if you can't afford to live here, then move. But it's not that simple. This is our home, our community, and for many of us, it is where we have built our lives, raised our children, and invested decades of hard work. The decisions made here have real consequences. They have the power to empty bank accounts, push families into debt, and destroy the dreams of people who have worked their entire lives, all in the name of growth that is not paying for itself. This is not just a financial issue, it is an emotional and deeply personal one for me, as I have been left the healthy parent on a single income. I now question if I can stay in Hawea. My home, the community I've given so much to, I find myself asking the impossible questions. What do I give up? Do I sacrifice insurance? Do I risk going without essentials? Do I have to rely on the food bank to feed my children? How do I explain to them that I may lose our home? Not because of poor choices, but because of rising costs beyond our control. I'm deeply concerned this time as I may lose my home due to growth that is not paying for itself, a system that places too much burden on existing residents. Please have compassion and understand that everyone's paycheck cannot afford this astronomical hike. Over the past weeks, I have spoken with many of our people in the community and they feel the same way. Everywhere people are hurting. This rates increase will not just be an adjustment for some families, it will break them. I generally do not know how people are expected to find the extra money when they are already struggling to cover food, fuel, insurance, and basic living. When people are pushed out of their homes, where are they supposed to go? What are they supposed to do? The cost of living in the area is already out of control, and for many families, they're hanging by a thread. I simply want you to understand what I am seeing. I am seeing this in the community every single day. These are not just numbers on a page. They are real people real families and real lives. Thank you.
Okay, Alan. Morning, Erica.
Morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to my submission relating to the draft annual plan. I'm particularly concerned regarding the proposed rate increases for Hawea and Luggett when compared to the signalled increases for other parts of the QLDC region. You've heard facts and figures from other submitters, and you have published many of these in your own document. I'm presenting as a concerned resident. As a resident who has owned a property in Lake Hawea for over 30 years, initially as a holiday destination, like many of us did, but more recently as a permanent home, I have observed that our residents are generally hard-working, fixed income, younger people who've been attracted by the lower cost of homes and rentals. And the older residents who, like us, have seen Hawea as a great retirement option that, aside from the lack of services, is generally an affordable location with the benefits of the lake and mountainside in a community that looks after its neighbours and its environment. When we first purchased our section in Lake Hawea, we were given the option by the council to pay a one-off fee to have our water and sewage connected to the local scheme, or to pay this off annually over a period of time. We had a septic tank and a water tank up on a tripod type job at the back of our section. We took the option of paying it off over a few years because we were young and not so full of cash, and we honestly believed that this would cover us for the future. We'd hooked up to the sewage system and the water, we were good. And that as the population grew, additional services would be funded by the development levies, or however you plan to get it, not by those of us who had already gone through this process, because we'd joined up, we'd paid our way. More recently, as residents, we were not asked if we wanted thousands more people living in Hawea, nor were we asked if we were willing to pay through our rates to have them join us. We thought the money that the developers paid the council would fund what was required to add them and their new homes to our community and our infrastructure. Yes, we were expected to greet this increased population with open arms, allow them to enjoy the community facilities that we as residents had worked hard to fund and maintain, such as our own, paid for by the community centre, tennis courts and other facilities. We still pay and maintain those ourselves. I've always believed in fairness and equity, and so one of the facts that led me to making my feelings heard via the submission to the annual plan was the way in which I understand the costs of the development increase in rates for Wanaka, Luggett and Lake Hawea are being applied. How can it be right that Luggett and Lake Hawea residents will be asked to fund the sewage system at a higher level than Wanaka on a per unit basis? We know that the average value of a residential unit in Wanaka is considerably greater than Lake Hawea and Luggett, and yet our rate increases are far higher. Where is fairness in this? And is there some reason for it? Then why has this not been explained to us in a clear, concise and easily understood manner? And I think that's the crux of the thing. We can't understand why these things are being attributed the way they are. And we're not stupid. It seems that we're expected to act as the poor neighbours and just accept as something we have to grin and bear. Well, if I understand it correctly, Kingston has been treated differently and not being burdened with the levy for the system which they don't already have the benefit of in this rating year. Now, I don't know if I really understand this totally, but my understanding is that the increase to them has been put on hold, but ours isn't. We were told this is because their scheme's not operational, but then nor is ours. We're still having a visit from the poo, or multiple visits from the poo truck every day to Lake Hawea, and shortly we're also going to have to face the inconvenience of having the Albert Town Bridge closed for maybe 2 weeks while we work through the implications of this development. So not only are we paying for it, we're going to have to drive all the way around through Luggett to get to Wanaka, which is an issue for many people who have to go there every day. I'd just like to ask you to rethink your approach to the rating aspect of the annual plan and treat all ratepayers with equity and fairness. They deserve it and they expect it too. bring our rates into line with the other areas within the QLDC region, and ensure that developers actually fund developments at a level that reflects the true cost to the community of their developments. I think it's really important that that whole aspect of development costs are clearly and easily understood so that people can work out where their own money's going and how the whole system works, because I think we've got a lot of very confused ratepayers out there, and we want ratepayers to care about their rating area and not feel put upon, because certainly a lot of residents in Hawea spend a lot of time saying, we get nothing, no one cares about us, like someone said we got a roundabout. But, you know, we live in a good place and we choose to live there, but we need to be looked after too. Thank you. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, katoa. Good morning, my name is Deirdre Wither. I'm a ratepayer in Luggett Village. I'm here to speak against the proposed rates increase for Luggett in the draft annual plan. Thank you for this opportunity. I want to start with a principle. A lot of council decision making is built on user pays, and that makes sense in many situations. But in this case, the right question isn't who uses the infrastructure, it's who made the infrastructure necessary, who benefits from it being built. And the answer in Luggett's case is developers. I've lived in Luggett since 2012. When I bought my section and built my home, the village had a self-contained system. Water was provided by Dead Horse Bore. In the older areas, waste was managed through septic tanks. And Jim Bolt subdivision, which is where my home is, had its own waste management system, one that was designed to be extended as further stages were developed. When the subdivision was sold and the next developer planned further expansion, council decided not to extend the existing system. Instead, they chose to pipe Luggett's wastewater up to Project Pure. That decision wasn't made for the benefit of the existing residents. It was made to provide capacity for new subdivisions and future development in the area. Some older homes got the option to come off septic, but most are still on their septic systems today. And there's an absurdity here that I think is worth naming. Many homes in Luggett are still on their septic tanks. They never asked to be connected to the new system. But where the pipes to Project Pure happen to run past their property, they're being charged a proportion of the cost, simply because the pipeline is nearby. There's an old story about a poor traveller who sits outside a restaurant eating his rye bread and holds it over steam from the cooking pot to give it a bit of flavour. The restaurant owner demands payment for the smell of his soup. A wise judge hears the case, asks the traveller to produce the few coins he has and shakes them so they jingle. He asks the owner, "Did you hear that?" The owner says yes. The judge says then, the account is settled, the price for the smell of food is the sound of the money. That's what's happening here. People are being asked to pay for infrastructure that passes by their property that doesn't serve them. The smell of someone else's soup. Well, sewage. The same thing is happening now with the water. Continuing development put pressure on the bore. In the height of summer, we had water restrictions. A new bore was needed, not because the existing community had outgrown the supply, but because the expanded number of connections needed to service and the new and proposed developments. Deputy Mayor Smith described the Upper Clutha wastewater investment as, and I'm quoting, a major investment in infrastructure largely to accommodate growth. Your own spokesperson attributed Luggett's above average rates increase to investment in the wastewater network and water supply upgrades. Yet council itself acknowledges this infrastructure is growth driven. This is exactly what the development contributions policy under the Local Government Act is designed for, to make sure that developers who create additional demands on infrastructure contribute to the costs they impose on the community. Those of us who have already paid for infrastructure and the price of our sections should not be underwriting the cost of new infrastructure that was only made necessary by further and projected development. So I have a direct question for council. What proportion of these wastewater and water supply upgrade costs is being recovered through developer contributions? And what proportion is being loaded onto existing ratepayers through rates? If this infrastructure is, in your own words, largely to accommodate growth, then growth should largely be paying for it. Instead, 180 of Luggett's 320 households faces the rates increase of 29%. The district average is 11.7. This is not a small variation. This is a fundamentally different burden being placed on one of the district's smallest communities, a community that people only moved to because it was the affordable option. I live on a pension. This year was increased by $840 for the year. That's supposed to cover the increased cost of living. It doesn't cover the proposed rates increase, even with the rates rebase, let alone the increased cost in petrol, firewood, electricity, and $7 cauliflowers. When I retired 2 years ago, I went through my outgoings and worked out my annual spend, and I ended up with $50 a month unassigned. I live simply, I don't eat out, a coffee is a special treat, I don't go to shows. A trip to town costs $10, so $50 doesn't go far. A 29% increase on top of last year's 20% increase is not manageable, it's not reasonable, and it's not fair because these are not my costs. I'm not asking for solar panels, although I'd like to. I just want the water and wastewater services I have already paid for and to not be asked to pay for costs incurred by developers. Thank you. John. Any questions?
Thank you. The name of that poem, was that the Price and Smell Soup?
Sorry, I beg your pardon?
The name of that poem you referenced, is
Oh,
that?
the story. It's a Hodger story.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
What is it called?
I just Googled the smell of soup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
It's in different countries.
Right. Thank you.
Stick with us, well done.
Thank you. Nancy Latham. Nancy's here. That's Nancy.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I can talk about what was being said actually.
Thank you, Your Worship, councillors. I'm Nancy Latham, a resident and long-term ratepayer within the Queenstown Lakes District. I'm submitting on the draft QLDC annual plan in a personal capacity, although I am also a guardian of Lake Wanaka, a past president of Friends of Bullock Creek and a Wanaka Bridge Club committee member. Considering that Lake Wanaka and other freshwater bodies in the Upper Clutha are iconic features of our living environment, and these icons are a critical cornerstone to our tourism industry, it's concerning that recent expansion has occurred without corresponding investment in stormwater infrastructure. It's the same thing really, isn't it? As a result, these freshwater environments are experiencing increasing pressure on their health and resilience. The Ministry for the Environment has reclassified the health of the Lake Wanaka from excellent to good. The sediment deltas in the Roy's Bay at the mouths of Bullock Creek, Middle Creek and Stony Creek are noticeably extending further into the lake. Swimmers avoid Roy's Bay for at least 24 hours after rainfall events. Bullock Creek is the most polluted freshwater creek in the Upper Clutha. Today I have 3 requests for changes to the draft annual plan. Firstly, I request that the signalled deferral of $1.1 million for the Stone Street upgrades in the draft annual plan on page 10 of the document is not adopted by the council. This project has been repeatedly deferred since August 2022, leaving local residents, Bullock Creek and ultimately Lake Wanaka vulnerable to continued stormwater and inundation from Stone Street and Alpha urban areas. The recent minimal planting on fish and game land will not change the direction of degradation. Secondly, I ask you to reprioritise OPEX to increase stormwater investment in the Upper Clutha. My rates invoice indicates that I pay 5.75 of my rates, and that's earmarked for residential stormwater management. However, only 4.2 of the total OPEX expenditure in the draft annual plan appears to be allocated to residential stormwater management. There's quite a difference there. By comparison, the priority for transport maintenance is 16.6%, and that's approximately 4 times greater than the priority given to protecting freshwater environments from stormwater contamination. In my written submission, I've suggested several areas where additional stormwater investment could provide meaningful environmental protection. My third request is for greater transparency in QLDC expenditure reporting, particularly by primary service and geographical area. I believe more detailed and accessible reporting is required so ratepayers can better understand how expenditure is allocated across services and locations. Conclusions. Given the recent adoption of QLDC's urban intensification plan variation and recognising that Lake Wanaka and other Upper Clutha freshwater bodies are already facing increased pressure from population growth and ageing stormwater infrastructure, I support QLDC giving significantly higher priority to stormwater management within the draft annual plan. Also request greater transparency regarding how rates revenue is allocated to support environmental and infrastructure priorities across the district. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Any questions from council? Thanks very much. Thank you. Just check it whether Daniel Hamilton is here this morning. No, okay. We haven't had a response, so I'm not sure whether he's going to be here. We are running ahead, but we've got two more speakers to hear from, two more submitters to hear from this morning, which is Ruth Heath and Danny Molan. So Ruth, if you're happy to be there, thank you. Good morning.
Kia ora koutou. Ngā mihi nui for the opportunity to speak to you all today. My name is Ruth Heath, Director of Te Atamira, the Arts and Cultural Centre in Frankton, Queenstown, and I live in Hawea Flat. Some of you will know me from my previous role as Executive Director for the Wanaka Festival of Colour, where I worked across the Upper Clutha and saw firsthand the role arts and culture play in strengthening connection and livability across our district. Firstly, thank you to Council for your continued investment in arts and cultural infrastructure. That investment has enabled Te Atamira to become a significant community asset, delivering social, cultural and economic value for the region. We understand the immense pressure that you are balancing right now, and our intention is to continue working alongside Council and community to help strengthen wellbeing and thriving communities in the district. Te Atamira opened 4 years ago this week, and today more than 100,000 people will come engage with the facility annually, and we have more than 2,000 people coming through the doors every week. And we deliver more than 200 community program sessions each year. Our recent survey data shows that 96% of participants agree that Te Atamira makes arts and creativity more accessible, and 87% say that it's increased their participation in arts and culture. And today I want to make 3 key points. 1, Te Atamira strengthens our district-wide creative ecosystem. As one of the only year-round publicly accessible arts presenters of this scale in the district, Te Atamira provides pathways for artists and creatives across the district to develop practice, present work and build sustainable careers. And this work extends beyond Queenstown. We are increasingly bringing programs and partnerships into the Upper Clutha communities, working alongside local organisations, existing venues and creatives to improve accessibility to creativity, culture and heritage across the district. We have great plans there, and this regional approach builds on work that I previously led through the Wanaka Festival of Colour, and with support you will continue to see this outreach grow. Just last week, the Mint Trust showed how meaningful it was for their group to experience the neurodiverse dance company that we brought to Wanaka on the way to Te Atamira. They highlighted the importance of connection and access for them being relatively isolated. 2, Te Atamira is essential social infrastructure. Our work aligns with Te Muka Toi, Te Muka Takata, the district-wide strategy, helping strengthen connection, belonging, participation and wellbeing through creativity, culture and heritage. As our district grows rapidly and becomes increasingly diverse, accessible spaces that support social cohesion are becoming more important than ever. Through our programs, we support elders experiencing isolation, neurodiverse communities, tamariki, rangatahi, migrant communities, new parents, families, and people facing barriers to participation. We have mana whenua-led programming in process, and we can respond to community need for spaces.
Recent Helen Clark Foundation research found social cohesion in New Zealand is declining, and that one of the strongest predictive factors in investment is investment in places where people can meaningfully connect, especially across differences. And that is exactly the role that we play at Te Atamira. And number 3, arts and culture are central to both livability and visitor economy. Destination Queenstown and Lake Wanaka tourism insights show arts and culture are now among the most engaged with visitor experiences in the region alongside skiing. Festivals and events Te Atamira supports and collaborates with, including the Wanaka Festival of Colour at the World's Edge and Queenstown Writers Festival, help drive visitation, local spend and destination identity. At the same time, we are seeing record numbers of participation across our high schools and the performing arts. These are young people, they are our future residents, and they are clearly telling us that creativity and cultural participation matter deeply to them. Arts and culture are central to our district's identity, resilience and future. Looking ahead, our focus is clear. We are going to strengthen community connection. We grow the district's creativity. We're going to grow the district's creative identity and ensure that the arts and culture remain accessible to everyone. Thank you again for your continued support of Te Atamira and the role arts and culture play in helping the Queenstown Lakes remain connected, thriving and future focused. Arts and culture are essential to strong communities and truly livable places across our region.
Oh, look at that.
Look, I'll stand here.
Thank you.
Danny, morning. Morning.
This submission is about the proposed 22.3% rates rise on Lake Hawea and the 29.3% rise on Ludgate's connected ratepayers. I want to start with the people this decision affects. Lake Hawea and Ludgate are working townships. The people who will pay these rates are families raising children here, tradespeople running small businesses here, retirees on fixed incomes, and workers who serve the wider district. They are the people who live and work here. They're also, on the council's own figures, the people who own the lowest value homes in the district. The council's own numbers make the lack of equity visible. The district average rise is 11.6%. Every other identified community falls in a band between 9.9 and 13%. Lake Hawea and Ludgate connected to wastewater are outside of that band on their own. On a per dollar of property value basis, Ludgate connected households are being asked to pay 5 times what Lake pays. Lake Hawea ratepayers 3 times. The two communities with the lowest capital values and the least ability to pay being asked to pay per dollar of property owned by far the most. The council has itself put on record in the Lake Hawea rates FAQ that 47% of the 49.8 million Upper Clutha wastewater conveyancing scheme is attributable to growth. That's approximately $23 million. Under the Local Government Act, as you know, that is the portion that the Act contemplates being recovered from developers and those who benefit, not from existing ratepayers. But the cost movement figures in the council's own FAQ show that about 80% of this year's wastewater cost increase is financing costs, it's interest on debt. That is the structural signal of growth cost that have been borrowed rather than recovered from the developers who created the need for it. And now it's falling on Hawea households. And $23 million is the floor, it's not the ceiling. Before growth, Hawea ran on a single oxidation pond, serving about 500 people. A large part of what the council now classifies as non-growth is growth in everything but name. I know this council is capable of doing better because it already is doing better, $130,000 better. That is what the council has deferred for Kingston. In the council's own words, it would be unfair to begin full cost recovery now on the scheme Kingston residents are not yet receiving the full benefit of. Our scheme is also not yet operational. Council's own September 2025 practice note confirms that the UCCS will not be complete until early 27. So for most of 26-27, Highway ratepayers will be paying 22.3% rise for a service we are not yet receiving the full benefit of. Same council, same statute, same principle. Applied to protect Kingston, but not applied to protect us. I'm not here to argue that Kingston's arrangement should be torn up. They should not. Nor am I asking the council to do the impossible. I'm asking the council to do what it has already demonstrated it can do, to do it consistently. I'm asking for three things. First, reduce the proposed highway and Ludgate connected rises for 26-27 into the district average range, as the council has done for Kingston. Second, bring forward the developer contributions policy so that the next scheme is not funded the way this one has been. And third, before the plan is adopted on the 25th of June, disclose the arithmetic that my full submission asks for. I'll be putting in an official information act submission later in the day. The developer contributions actually collected, breakdown behind the council's growth and non-growth numbers, and an explanation of why the Kingston principle is not being applied, is being applied to one community and not to ours. We do not object to paying a fair share of the cost of the infrastructure that this district needs. We do object to being asked as two of the smallest and least wealthy communities in the district to absorb the highest rates in the district for a scheme that isn't yet delivering, to pay for growth that we accepted in the name of housing affordability, but are not benefiting from. On consultation material, it doesn't show how the numbers will arrive at or why Kingston is protected and we are not. The council could and should show its working.
I just have a quick question. I just wanted to, and just a question and a comment, that the context of the Kingston one is quite different in that it's a developer agreement that has been entered into in that context. Not saying that those can't occur in the in other places, but the Kingston one's quite different, and that the single landowner with about 80% of the growth in a single holding. So it's.
My comment's not about the funding source, Quentin. It's about the consequence on the existing rate. And in that regard, the principle and its execution are the same.
Yeah,
I understand
that point. Yeah.
You're still getting, sorry. Good presentation. You're still receiving the same service you were before, but you're paying more for it. Is that correct? Does the service need different?
There will be a level of service increase as well, I would imagine.
Right. But as we're saying, so there's no service at all. Probably the best, but we're certainly something to do.
Well, in Kingston, people are drinking water and having their wastewater taken care of, correct?
No, it's all
I didn't say piped anywhere. I said being taken care of.
Yes, sure. Yeah, on their own property. Well made.
You have to remember, I'm going off what's in the public record.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah,
so I hear answers to questions where those answers are not in the public record and not adequately explained, hence the LIO.
Thanks very much. Just seeing whether Daniel Hampton is here or not. Okay, so we've run through all submitters on the this first part of the hearing, which will commence tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the council chambers in Queenstown Court Road. So I'll declare the meeting closed at